Welcome to the xTension. You've gotten to the advanced program, you've gotten into flow that well that you can add in resistance to the range of motion. That you do with this xTension, with the mini club bell. The mini club bell is a weighted implement, weighted heavily on one side and lighter on the next. You see that there's a knob here for you to get good purchase with your grip. When you're swinging this, your goal is to add resistance to the range of motion. Your goal is not to lift weights. If you think about the nature of the implement, if it's heavier on one side, it's obviously going to have more and more challenge the farther it goes out from your body. And the faster that you swing it, the torque is going to increase that resistance. So when you're working on the xTension program, I want you to focus on a firm grip, but not white knuckled. A firm grip so that you can carry it through its range of motion. In the ranges of motion, I don't want you to drop the weight. I don't want you to let it snap out your arm. I want you to place it with control, smooth and slow to its range of motion, and then change direction. I can't impress upon you enough that the goal of the xTension program is to build off of the prior programs that were weightless. You're only adding resistance to the nature of the movements you've already done. But with any implement that you add, there comes a component of strength, endurance, agility, coordination, power, which will be accompanied into your xTension program. So before you begin this or any other part of this program, first confirm that it's okay with your physician for you to begin. Some safety regulations, they may be obvious, but let's go over them. If you're swinging this and you're watching me right now, how close are you to the television or computer screen? Judge your distance before you start swinging. Judge your distance behind you. When you're working out with your friends and family, make sure that you have ample room to swing in 3 dimensions without clobbering each other. This is a weighted implement, and as a result, it could be a weighted club. There are other hazards, like small children and animals who aren't aware of what you're doing and don't understand the dangers. My best suggestion is don't swing this unless you have created a perimeter that nothing will enter while you're swinging, just so that you can, with ease of mind, concentrate on your own internal awareness of your movements. If you can't do that, then you need to keep whatever child or pet visible so that you don't happen to hit them with this implement. Swinging this could be very, very dangerous. And finally, the danger to yourself. When you make sudden changes in motion, you're not holding on to this at its center of gravity most of the time. You're holding on to it at its end. So while you may change direction with your hand, the end of the implement continues to swing. Not only does it continue to swing, but it continues to swing faster than your hand. So if you move in a motion out of control, you could clobber yourself. And this is, once again, a weighted implement. It could be a weighted club if you don't use it correctly. I want you to practice. I want you to view all of your training sessions as working purely on technique rather than as a method of strength training or a method of increasing your flexibility. You go to the depth that you're comfortable. This is only adding an extension to your range of motion so that you can strengthen what you've already refined through the prior programs of getting into flow. Before you begin, how to handle the mini club bell. Remember when we talked about this implement that the end is weighted. I want you to realize that is how you adjust how much resistance you're experiencing. So for instance, if an exercise is very challenging, I want you to grip up towards the center of mass, which is where it balances evenly in your hands. If you find that a range of motion is very challenging and you don't want that much resistance, choke up. This is micro-loadable. If you're very strong in a particular range of motion, you can choke all the way down to the knob. If you find that this exercise is too challenging, come back to order position and start moving your hand up the entire length of the mini club bell. The cushion design allows you to grab anywhere along its length to increase the resistance, the leverage that you're experiencing. So it's not just single-handed, since we're also doing two-handed exercises. The mini club bow allows us to grab with two hands. If I'm in guard position here, this is a very strong hold since I'm choked so close down to the knob. However, if this were a very challenging exercise, I can choke either hands together or I can choke hands separated. It depends on what is most comfortable. Remember, the goal of this is to increase the range of motion through this micro-loadable adjustment, not to cause more pain or increase tension beyond what is comfortable. If on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being mildly tense, 10 being very uncomfortable, too much, even experiencing pain, I want you to grab in a position that allows you to move through the range of motion on a 4 or less, a scale of 1 to 10. That micro-loadable adjustment will allow you to take the mini club bow through the xTension program with greater ease and greater safety. To begin with the nuances of your front swipe, we need to go through the 6 components. They're very important for your practice so that you can integrate your structure with your movement, with your breathing. Jamie will help us with our front swipe, going through the components. She's already in our first position, that being right guard. Right guard, you can see that her right hand is on top and the alignment of the club bow is just off to the right hand side of her center line, the line that cuts us into right and left halves. As she moves into back position, she'll keep her left forearm threading around her head without touching the back position. Great. You notice how the arm opens up on the right-hand side. There's a big release, a big opening in the chest. The club bell is perpendicular to the ground, not touching the back. This is really important. The left hand, you can see that the forearm is parallel to the ground the whole time. As she moves back into guard position again, she's in control of the club bell through the entire movement. It's not deviating, not flailing as she moves it. With this heavier weight, that makes it more of a challenge. So what she's focusing on as she moves back into back position is pushing the knob behind the head of the club bow. As she pushes it, she has a controlled arc. Go ahead again. Nice controlled motion through the entire range as she comes back. Now, to move out of guard position into the second portion of the front swipe, she's going to lock out her elbows and push the club bells forward into flag position. As she does, it moves from the right side to her center line. In the center line now, she can begin the swing phase of the front swipe. So she's going to tip it forward. As she's tipping it forward, her elbows must be locked. You see how they're nice straight lines. When it's locked, then when you start going downwards, the club bell's not going to snap your arms into locked position. So lock them in advance. When the swing begins, watch the fold in her hips. She'll sit back as if sitting on a chair and go ahead and swing. Now, can you continue swinging, please? She's sitting back, the back is straight as she's moving upwards. Notice how the hip snaps forward to recover from the back position of the swing. Now, what I want you to concentrate on is exhalation on the hip snap. Exhale, keep your throat open, and you should feel the swing phase from kicking the club bell back up into that tip of flag position. Okay, and back up the flag and hold it. Now, she didn't bring it immediately into guard. She held it out into flag position by tipping the club bell up. That's an important nuance to control the club bell. From flag position, she's going to contract her arms once again, back into guard, into your rest position. If you're finding a position where it's getting to be fatiguing, you can even park the knob closer to your hip, just to rest for a moment, okay? But for now, let's go back out into guard. From back position, if we go through all 6 components, 1, back into guard, 2, into flag, 3, to tip, 4, to sit back, 5, and hip snap, 6. There's your entire front swipe. So I'm gonna have Jamie go through a few repetitions for us, and you can follow along on your practice or watch her form as we're going through it. Go ahead. Let's just do a few repetitions. Hip, swing, breathe, flag, guard, and then the back position. Good. Nice and controlled motion. Jamie's showing us each of the components A little staccato that's important so that you can get the flow to understand the middle components of the motion. And she's starting to soften it out already so that as she's softening the transitions in the movement, it becomes more fluid and you start to get into the flow of the front swipe. Good, one more time. Good breathing, good form, back is flat, good sit back, and she's done. Jamie will help us again now on the nuances of our side swipe. Remember, the goal of the technical nuances are to integrate your structure, how you carry yourself, your breathing, where your inhalation and exhalation occur, with your movement of the motion of the club bell. In the side swipe, it's very much like your front swipe, except you're going to have a hip root. That hip root is going to change the dimension of your swing. So we'll start with the hip root. As Jamie takes her right guard position and twists her upper body, notice that her knee's locking out on the far side. So the right leg's locking out, the left leg is bent, the right guard doesn't change. This frame is solid as it twists on the torso. From right guard, she's going to move into back position. Same as before, just like your front swipe, the far arm is parallel to the ground, the club bell's perpendicular to the ground and not touching the back. She'll come back into right guard, she'll extend out into flag position, nice elbow lock, and just like your front swipe, you're going to tip. Here's the challenging part. I'm going to have her do a few continuous side swings. As she's swinging, go ahead. Swing, keep very good. Watch the hip. It's the hip portion of this swing that's important. She's snapping one hip up to get behind the club bell and give it its motion. The exhalation occurs on the upswing of the mini club bell. There's the swing, and one more, and stop. Good. She immediately brought it back. Let's put it back into flag position. From the tip, she brought it back into flag and then back into guard position. That's what I want you to do every single time with the side swipe. So let's go through it component by component and look at the far side. From right guard into back position, into right guard, into flag with a tip, and the side swing, flag position, guard. Now notice that she didn't put it on the opposite side. It always stays on the right hand side of your body if you're doing a right guard swing. If you start in right guard, you end in right guard. So when she goes into back position on the far side, right guard. Nice club bell perpendicular vector to the ground. Forearms nice and perpendicular. It forms a nice shape. The back is nice and solid. Bottom leg, in this case the right leg is bent. Left leg is locked out as you're in a deep hip root. So she goes back into right guard position, extends into flag, tips, side swings, tips in the flag, into right guard, and she begins again. I'm going to have her do a few repetitions continuously, and we're going to just take a look at it. Go ahead. Once again, she's pausing just slightly at each nuance. This is important for your technical development. But as she goes through these repetitions, she's slowly going to soften the transition between the components so that you can have the opportunity to get into flow with the technique. Remember, the weight is an extension of your body. Yes, you're going to have the strength, the power, the endurance components to this movement, but it's important that you're realizing that this is just adding weight to the range of motion that helps you get into flow. One more rep. That's it. Nice solid form. One more swing, and she's done.